So, welcome everyone. Nice to have you here. Also welcome to everyone listening to this on SoundCloud. Now today we have a question. Okay, so questions from Paul this time. He asks, I did have one brief question, also if you have time to answer. In relation to letting go of negative feelings/emotions, to further cultivate meditation, is it important to know the root cause of why these feelings are coming about, as there is sometimes a deeper root cause than the surface reason? Or is it best just to notice that this thing causes displeasure and say, I'm not exactly sure why, so don't dwell on it? That's a long sentence. Okay. All right. So the topic of today's talk is then dealing with the causes of delusions. This is a quite popular approach, I think, for all of us, to investigate, why am I feeling like this? Why am I thinking the way I think? Why are certain life situations continuously reappearing in different shapes and colors? Why me? Why have my parents been the way they've been? So we have all these kind of questions about our psychology, the way the mind works, the conditioned mind works. We notice it, we feel bothered by it, so we want to know. There's this approach that the idea that once you find out why you feel the way you feel or you think the way you think, then that is some sort of solution to it. Very often if you are offended by someone or someone misbehaves around you, then also there is this kind of tendency like, why did you do this? We want to know why. And I've observed that there is some truth to this. It's not just completely to be put aside and say, no, we don't have to dwell on that, it's just thinking and so forth. So there is some truth to that. By finding out why you are behaving a certain way, or what is one of the main contributing causes that your mind is the way it is, it can help you to have that kind of, we can say, this standard peace of mind. I know where that one is coming from. But then you would still have to let it go. Or you would have still, on a little bit of lower level of practice, you would still work on transforming it. Applying the antidotes to it or something like that. So let's say, for example, you have a lot of anger and you wonder, why is there so much anger in me? You might find out, for example, that the anger is coming from too much stress. Just a very basic direct cause. We discover that I'm quite angry in general. That probably comes from overuse of computers, constantly looking into the screens. This would be in my case, for example. I've observed that when I'm looking into the computer a lot, for example, when I have a lot of work doing the editing of the little inside movies that are released every week, then I have to look into the screen for a long time, and it creates a nervous energy. So if things are not immediately going the way I think they should be going, or if someone comes and is distracting me, like Pan is coming in and she's asking questions and stuff like this, I notice very clearly that there's an angry energy coming up. Very easy. But when I'm not using computers so much, when I spend more time just really relaxing and meditating and practicing well, then that is not the case. There's not this nervous energy. So it's much easier to stay calm, even in adverse situations. It's not even any struggle to stay calm. It's natural staying calm. Another immediate cause is too much coffee. Drinking too much coffee, it creates a nervous, tense inner energy. Coffee in combination with computers, even worse. A lot of computer work, a lot of coffee, and wow. Very difficult to kind of be above the emotional field in the body and to be there as an observer. Very easy to get caught up in it. It's much more on fire. The inner being is much more on fire. So if I discover that these are the root causes, that these are secondary causes that are activating an angry energy in me, then it would be wise to kind of abandon these causes and say, okay, drink a little bit less coffee, maybe switch over to tea or just water, and work a little bit less on the computer, or take a break from the screen every 30 minutes or so. And it should make the situation a little bit better. So it is good sometimes to look at the causes and to fix your life, like for example, to see what is the cause of illness, and then you avoid that so you don't get ill. Like the cause of dengue fever, for example, is bitten by a mosquito, so you put on some mosquito spray and you take care that you're not bitten by mosquitoes, right? But there is deeper causes than that. These are just secondary causes. There's deeper causes for anger to arise. Now, to go a little bit deeper, then would be the level of a psychologist. They will discuss that why is it that there is this angry nature that is triggered when you're looking too much into the screen or having too much coffee or something like this. Why is there an angry response? For some other people, it would be a different kind of response, but in my case, it would be an angry response. Why do I get angry when I see certain people behaving a certain way? All this is, I think, true for all of us. We experience certain emotions, certain heavy negative emotions, and they do have causes that are coming from further back in the past. I'm still talking on a very relative level, because you can trace that back infinitely. There's always, and why did that happen? And then you go back a little bit further, and then I ask, why did that happen? And you go back a little bit further. That is infinitely, right? So, but there are a few major things like a traumatizing experience in our lifetime that really shape the way we are mentally made up. To give you an example, for example, that we had this very nice evening in the monastery when I was staying back at the monastery, and we at the weekends we would very often all come together and kind of cuddle up in a little room and watch a movie together. And we watched this kind of Bollywood movie this one evening. It was this long, very dramatic, very emotional, but I love them. It's very cool movies, actually. Very deep. It was very emotional. I like that. Yes. So we watched this very emotional, long movie. And so we were all quite in a good mood, after that movie. And so I went back into my room. And while I left the room, I kind of sat into the room and said, all right, good night, guys. See you tomorrow. And my teacher suddenly turned around and his face was very serious. He's looking at me with this very serious expression. While we were all joking around, all of a sudden the whole room went very quiet. And then he said, oh, well, have a good meditation on death then. And it was such a blow that now whenever I hear someone tell me, all right then Tobi, see you tomorrow, I hear his voice in my head. That is a traumatizing experience, but in a good way, so we call it a blessing. A blessing is just a very positive trauma. Someone making you wake up in such a fundamental or powerful way that it sticks to you. And sometimes it's very good. And some of the great teachers, like my teacher, they are very good at this. For them, sometimes it's just enough to look. Is up there, this teacher. He's famous for just looking at you, and he has this look. And immediately goes into the ego, immediately. It's very painful sometimes, just looking. And so that can help a lot. These are very powerful, is a very powerful impact, very powerful blessing you receive from your teacher that stays with you for the rest of your life. It shapes your mental makeup. And that can be very good in some cases, and in some cases it can be very detrimental to your health, it can be detrimental to your well-being, whatever you do in your life. If you are coming from a family, for example, where you have been abused, or where, for example, you have been constantly compared to others. My grandmother, I was spending a lot of time with my grandmother when I was younger. I was living with my grandmother for 7 years. After my parents divorced, I stayed with my grandparents. They're very old-fashioned, old-school people, and very strict. And my grandmother was always, she liked to compare me to other students in class, for example. She would say, let's say I'm coming home with a B, okay, or a C, okay, I had the grade C in the test. And so she would immediately ask, oh, you have a C, what does your buddy have that sits next to you? And he had a B. This is slightly better than me. And so she would look at me with this face, oh, how did that happen? You see, his name is Hendrik. She would constantly compare me to him. Hendrik's parents are very noble people. Your parents, on the other hand, they are divorced. Stuff like that. So she would constantly go like this, and this programs the child. Very strongly so. And so now I have to deal with this, with this attitude of being a people pleaser. Because I could never satisfy my grandmother. I tried really hard. But whatever I did, it was just not enough. So here I am, I'm constantly trying to get that, well done, Tobi. But even when I hear it, it's going in that ear and coming out that ear. It doesn't stick. But criticism, wow, that sticks and it's really painful. It's this people-pleasing attitude, isn't it? And that comes from a certain behavior that my grandmother had, and it was mixed with my response to that behavior, with the circumstances, me going to school and so forth. There are so many things, thousands and thousands of things coming together for something like that to kind of develop. And it takes a good amount of time to kind of be firmly embedded in your person, to become like a character trait, that you have mastered this kind of attitude, that you have to please someone all the time. So you have that very strong parent figure sometimes, and then later on in your life you kind of search parent figures like this, like your boss at work, authority figures, and there's always this kind of, or a spiritual teacher. So for me, it was really important to please my spiritual teacher for a long time. I'm just only now beginning to abandon that and practice for my own well-being, not for my teacher. You're not practicing for your teacher, right? You practice because it's good for you and it has immediate results for yourself. You're not practicing to make someone else praise you. Good boy. You're such a good meditator, right? And so all these kind of psychological habits, they form over a long period of time, and they harden over that time if they remain unseen. So even a psychologist does that. He brings light into the situation. He will ask you to share what happened, to explain, well, what happened when you were younger, how's your relationship to your parents, and so forth. Tell me a little bit, how do you feel? And so he digs slowly deeper to kind of get a very thorough image of your personality makeup, the personality complex, the inner person. So psychologist aims to understand that person in a rough form and then point you to certain thoughts that you are having that might be harmful for yourself and so forth. That is a very good interaction. It can be a very good interaction. It can also not be really helpful. For some people it's not helpful at all. Yeah. But for some people it's really helpful. Having this kind of constructive discussion with someone that is able to show you or point out to you the way you are talking, the way you are behaving, what kind of words you use, questioning them, why are you talking like this? Why do you say that? Why is your body language a certain way? What do you think about this? How do you feel this? Very reflective. It's a very good kind of relationship. But it will not lead to the solution of the problem. Talking about it, bringing light into it is already, it's the first step. It's like opening the door into a chaotic room and realizing, wow, cleaning up has to be done. Or even to formulate it in a little bit of a direct way more, I have to clean up. Yeah. Or even better, I want to clean up. Because I reflect on the results. A cleaner room is nicer to be in. So I create a clean room. That's just the first step, isn't it? You realize that, wow, I have a certain mental makeup that continuously drives me into problems day in and day out. I get into trouble with people through it. I have conflicts with other people all the time. I don't like myself. I remain unsuccessful no matter what I do. I just can't seem to get it moving. All these kind of things. When we discover that about ourselves, then we find the cause of it. That's just the first step. Second step then is, of course, dealing with it. And there are two ways of dealing with it. The first way would be to apply an antidote. Let's say in the case of being angry all the time, first antidote is quit the coffee, less computer screens. Third antidote is practicing kindness. And now we are coming from the inside out. We're not arranging circumstances anymore so that our life becomes a bit less inciting for anger. But we're actually dealing from the inside out. And we create that which is overcoming anger, which is kindness, which is love. Being able to receive yourself with kindness. Being able to receiving your emotional states with kindness makes a big difference. You might be hearing that right now and feel like, yeah, I can imagine, makes a big difference. But you have to taste it. Next time when you have an angry emotion, are you able to receive it like a friend? There it is, anger. First step, you bring in awareness, you notice it. Second step, can you relate to it like a friend and be kind to it? It's pain. There's part of your being that is sick, that is ill. Why not take care of it? It's part of your being that is hurting. Why not be kind to it? Why increase the pain by fighting it, by resisting it? So that would be the direct antidote to anger. Couldn't be any more direct. You are basically transforming your anger into kindness. You are inviting it into a kind space. So in that kind space it can dissolve, and eventually there is a different habit formed. Each time the anger will arise, if you do that consequently, consistently every day, each time anger arises, you apply that practice. You give your anger space. Anger, it's okay to be angry. We are all human beings. We are all harboring anger. All of us. It's just for most people, fortunately, it's kind of asleep. Right now, maybe for all of us, anger is asleep. It takes a few pushes of a button and then it wakes up, of course. But right now it is asleep. But each time when it wakes up, can you kind of have this determination to say, okay, each time when I get angry, first of all, I work on noticing it. Anger. That's the first training. It's very simple. And there is anger. You want to do this consistently, again and again. Write a diary about it. How many times could you catch anger today? How many times could you bring awareness into the anger? Right now I'm angry. It's like this to be angry. That's a breakthrough already, because you are bringing an awakened state into the anger. And normally what happens when you get angry, everything turns dark. You become totally unconscious. It's like passing out. Like in the same way you pass out when you go to sleep at night, and you find yourself back in a dream without knowing that you're dreaming at all. There's a moment of passing out. You lose your consciousness. You don't know what's happening. Otherwise you would directly know, right now I'm awake. I'm beginning to fall asleep. The senses are dying down. The dream is formed. And voila, pop, there it is. There's a dream. I'm dreaming now.
I do that.
You do that? That's very good. That's very good. Yeah. Are you doing it all the time, or?
Fairly often.
Very nice.
I know when I'm falling asleep and when the dreams are coming.
Very good. You can stay aware until the morning.
Oh no.
That's very good. So there's further training. Always further training. Always bringing in more awareness, maintaining the awareness, working on that. So the thing is, the same thing happens when you're getting angry. You're passing out, and the Buddha calls that birth. You're basically being born into anger. The moment of birth is when the sentence, there is some anger, turns into, I am angry. That's birth. You're born. You're born in hell. For maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe half an hour, you're going to stay in the hell of anger. Being angry is very unpleasant. Look at it. We don't notice how unpleasant it is because we're never really seeing it when it's there. It's burning. It's just really uncomfortable. And you want to see that. And then notice, wow, right now I'm hurting myself. There's this saying, I think, it's like being angry is like drinking toxins and expecting the other person to die, or holding on to a hot coal and expecting the other person, like throwing a hot coal at someone, but you get burned. You are the one that burns if you're on anger. It's like you're on a fire. And you would only notice it if there is awareness. So we want to train that. Anger. There it is. Being angry is like this. First step. Second step, can you receive it with kindness? And apply the antidote. And you can do that directly. As I said, you can directly receive the anger with a smile and say, hello, old friend. Hello, neglected part of myself. Welcome. You are now free. I'm not harassing you anymore. You are free to be there. I'm not controlling you. I'm not doing anything to you. Please forgive me for having tried to control you before. I just leave you alone now. And your anger will dissolve directly. That is quite high level already. And there's a little bit of a lower level approach you can do. For example, by thinking about the other person. Say you're angry about someone not saying nice things to you. So you can reflect, well, why are they not saying nice things? They might be in pain themselves. And so they can't help but share their pain with others. And so you can reason your way to kindness, to understanding maybe at first. Maybe not directly to kindness, but at least understanding. And then maybe some forgiveness. And then maybe some kindness. And if that is still really difficult, then you want to start with people who are not annoying you to practice that. People like your friends, People you're having good time with? Can you wish them well? Can you understand when they are hurting, that they are behaving in a way that is also spreading their pain to other people? Can you forgive them? More easy with friends. Then you practice with people that you don't know. Then you practice with people who really upset you, Step by step. You take it easy. It's taking a long time, many, many years to really understand yourself and how the mind works. Bringing in more and more awareness, slowly, taking your time. You have all the time in the world. You don't have to rush. It's good enough to have this intent to be on the path and to wake up to the way it is, to receive things with kindness or to transform. Now the third way of dealing with this is the most direct way. This is not transforming your anger. It is basically transcending your anger. And here we are working directly with awareness or directly with mindfulness, recognizing that the anger is seen by something. Recognizing that the anger is not me, not mine. It is just anger. Recognizing that the anger is momentary. There is nothing solid in it to be found. It is like wind. You cannot find a thing that is wind. Wind is like a process. It's constantly in motion. Anger and emotions are just like wind inside of your body. Sometimes strong wind, sometimes compressed wind, sometimes loose wind, sometimes very slow wind, sometimes no wind. Like this. So you can see it like this. This is just a condition. It is impermanent and it is not mine. It is not me. It is just that impermanent condition that comes from its causes, whatever causes. Basically, where does anger come from? It comes from previous anger. It's that simple. And where does that come from? From previous anger. Anger causes anger. And anger keeps itself alive in that way. So in order to really break through that cycle, you want to look directly at your anger and see that it's nothing really. It's just that wind. Just a condition. But in order to do that, you need to be quite stable with your mindfulness. And to reach a certain stability of your mindfulness, you have to train your mind. You have to sit down and you have to meditate. Or, to formulate it with better words, you have the luxury, the freedom, the leisure to let go of stress, to create happiness, to cultivate happiness inside. This is meditation. So when you have that stable center of mindfulness, then you are quite like a mountain, you can say, and then whatever happens is just like weather around you. It doesn't really bother the mountain at all. Now, as a final statement, I want to say this is not indifference. I've said it a few times, and I'm repeating that because it's so important. It is not indifference. We're not cultivating indifference. Oh, anger, I don't care. Oh, someone over there is suffering, but I'm just aware. Doesn't touch me. That's not it. Its awareness is a space of complete honesty. So you notice that, that is creating this. There's an anger arising because there is a certain trigger for anger. But it doesn't touch you. Yes, that is true. But you are not saying, I don't care that there is anger, or pushing it aside or something like this. You are fully able to receive it with friendliness, honesty, kindness. But you are not suffering your anger. Normally we are suffering our anger. We are suffering our experiences. We are suffering our life very often. We might even be suffering the meditation. When does it stop? Oh God. And he says, again, he goes to the next step. Oh God, that's another 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, I can't do this anymore. That we are suffering this moment. And we feel like it's going to be a relief to get somewhere else, to be somewhere else. But it's not. This is a trap. It never is. Just like there is no real peace in your posture. There's always pain coming. It's always coming, and then you change, and then it shifts. That's just all that happens. The pain is shifting around in the body. It's not leaving the body. So you're just moving your body around and shift the pain all the time. That is fine, and we have to do that, otherwise we die. But seeking for final, ultimate satisfaction and happiness in the body is futile, pointless. Seeking for finite happiness or total peace within the conditioned personality, the mind, the made-up mind, the fabricating mind, is pointless. You will never find anything but movement. You will never find anything but process. You'll find nothing that you can hold or say, there it is, I have my happiness now, and I won't let it go. What would happen if you actually had something that you don't let go of, and then you have your little bit of happiness? You get bored after a while, because you contract. It's that one single possibility in this infinite universe. You wrap your hands around that, and you think that is going to do the trick. You're excluding everything else. It doesn't work. Sure, then there is boredom, which is an expression or an invitation to expand again, or wake up again, like that. So a short summary again. The first point always is to become aware, to become mindful of whatever it is that is going on, whatever psychological tension we have. Second step is to either transform it or to apply this antidote to it, you can say. And the third step is to transcend it. So accepting, transforming, transcending. These options you have. And accepting is always necessary at first. If you are looking for change, if you are looking for more happiness, less stress. All right, so I think that is good enough for today.